Hello everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to a little bit of a fun video. I decided to do books to lose yourself in. Now I am looking at my office floor, just staring at all these books that I'm about to share with you guys, and I have them in little mini piles of like different categories because I know myself I usually like to lose myself in fantastical worlds that are just rich and comforting and incredible, like the Harry Potter series. I would have brought that up as well, but like that's just kind of a given. So if you don't want to revisit the Harry Potter world, I got you. Should we just dive into this video? I think we should just dive into this video. So first and foremost, I'm going to start with the two that don't really have a place. I was in my library and I was looking around, I was like, what's a book that just makes me feel so good and that you can actually lose yourself in the world? And I was gonna pick out a few classics, but then I realized, I was like, no, classics to me are a little bit of work, and right now I don't really want to work to read. But I will say, if you are looking for a classic, I highly suggest Pride and Prejudice, Picture of Dorian Gray, Dracula, or The House of Mirth by Edith Wharton. Great choices all around. Or, you know what, pick up Little Women. That's another good one. Or, this is one of the only classics that I have read that I think is super easy to get into, and that is, of course, Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. I absolutely adore this story. I am Canadian, so it speaks right to my heart, and I'm really sad that I didn't pick this up as a kid because I would have loved it as a child. I bought Anne of Green Gables as a child, but I was that kid who bought a lot of books and then just kept rereading Harry Potter and didn't read anything else because nothing else was good enough. But now, I have read Anne of Green Gables. Only the first one, the other ones I have not read yet, but I do have. So maybe that'll be my my prerogative for this summer, because they are also springy summer reads that just transport you to this place of Green Gables that you grow up in with Anne, and you go through her life, and she's just this happy, pure soul that just speaks right to me. I love Anne Shirley, she's amazing. But yes, definitely pick this up if you haven't. It is a great place to go. The next one is a graphic novel, actually, and it is a fall-themed graphic novel, and I think it would be perfect to lose yourself in right about now, because when I read it, it just felt like a warm hug and like a mug of cocoa, and that is Pumpkinheads by Rainbow Rowell and illustrated by Faith Erin Hicks, and it is fabulous. So this is following Josie and Deja on their last ever Halloween at the pumpkin patch, working the pumpkin patch, because they're going to college the next year, and it is a fun journey that takes them on a little bit of a trek through the pumpkin patch to find this girl that Josie's been crushing on for the 4 years that he's been working on in the pumpkin patch and has never gotten up the nerve to talk to. So super wholesome. The illustrations are just so cute, and it's a super quick read, so I know if you're having trouble concentrating on stuff, picking up a graphic novel is a really good place to start. And this one's good too. There's also Mooncakes, which I adore, that I would also highly recommend for a graphic novel, because it is a fantastical world for a graphic novel, and it is so cute, and I love it so much. I should have brought that one up too, but those two for sure. So next, let's just dive into the YA Contemporary, because it is right next to my leg. And first and foremost, I have Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell, which is following on the Rainbow Rowell train apparently. This is a super lovely, easy to read, fast read YA Contemporary that follows Kath, who is a university-age girl who absolutely loves fandom culture. So as booktubers, as people on the book internet, we can definitely relate to Kath, and it is just so lovely, and she is writing in this basically Carry On. You guys know Carry On, you know that whole thing, you know what this book is about, but if you have not read it yet, definitely pick it up. It is so lovely to relate to a character as much as I have to Kath, and I think she's incredibly relatable across the board with all of her fandomness. So, fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. The next one is another one that is very popular on BookTube, but it is also such a fast read and such a lovely light read at this time that I think you guys should definitely pick it up if you have not, and that is To All the Boys I Loved Before by Jenny Han. And this is also a Netflix movie, so if you don't want to spend the time reading the novel, you can also just watch the movie and lose yourself in that too. I won't judge. So this is about Laura Jean, who has throughout her life written love letters to the boys that she's liked as a way to get over them, and she has stored them in a hat box in her closet, I do believe, and one day these letters get out and delivered to these boys, and one of those boys is her sister's boyfriend. To cover this, she enters into a fake dating scheme with the school hotshot Peter Kavinsky, and antics ensue from there. It is lighthearted, it is lovely, and a super fast read if you're looking for something cute. The next book is one that was one of my favorites growing up. I've read it a few times, which is crazy to me because I don't ever really reread contemporary books, which is insane, but I also don't know if this holds up, but in my head it does, and that is The Lonely Hearts Club by Elizabeth Eulberg. This is a story about girls who are just fed up with love, so they start a club of girls to boycott boys, and it is, I just remember adoring this with all my heart and loving the story of friendship in here, and just, you know, it's just such a good time. And it's also based off of the Beatles songs. Yes, it is a Beatles type vibe, because her name is Penny. The girl in this book, the main character, is Penny, and it's based off of Penny Lane. But I remember loving it, and I remember loving the feeling of like girl power and friendships, and the love story in this is also really good too. So if you have never heard of this, try and pick it up, see what you think. It's also blurbed by Stephanie Meyer on the front, which might have been the reason that I picked it up when I was a kid, even though I did not like the Twilight series, but it's another cute one. Alright, so from there, let's move into the two adult romances that I have, because honestly, I find right now, even though I love to lose myself in a fantasy world, the romances that, like the Sophie Kinsellas, and the historical fantasies like Tessa Dares and all that kind of stuff are just super fast, just sweep you away type of stories, and you know there's a happy ending in the end with all romance stories, and that just makes me so happy. And I've found that it's kind of hard to concentrate on some fantasy right now. So the two I'm going to recommend are Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert. This was our lovely ladies live stream pick for, I believe, January or February. I can't really remember which one. It was earlier in 2020. Feels like forever ago, but this was such a cute read. Oh my gosh. And it's so quick. I read this in like 6 hours, not even one sitting. So good. I just have a love for books that deal with lists, I've realized. And so Chloe Brown has a chronic illness, and from the moment this book starts, she has decided to take her life into her own hands, because as of yet, she has not started her life. She feels like she has had no life at all. So she takes her life by the horns and creates a list. And that list is as follows: enjoy a drunken night out, ride a motorcycle, go camping, have meaningless but thoroughly enjoyable sex, travel the world with nothing but hand luggage, and do something bad. That's the list that she wants to complete, that she believes will get her successfully an interesting life. And so she moves out of her house at the beginning of this book, and her family house, and she goes and lives in an apartment, and she meets her superintendent Red, and he helps her complete this list. And it is adorable, super sexy, super steamy, and as I said, super fast to read. Absolutely incredible. Talia Hibbert's writing, beautiful. And she has another book coming out in June, I believe? I'm not sure, because a bunch of days have been pushed back for a lot of books, so that might be one of them. If it is, I'll correct myself on the screen, but definitely recommend you pick up a Talia Hibbert book. And following that same train, we have a Sophie Kinsella, my favorite Sophie Kinsella. In fact, it is I Owe You One. This is a story about Fixie, who is a middle child. I think she's a middle child. She has a brother and a sister who are both kind of ditzy and in their own world, and she is working in her father's business that her mom runs since her dad passed away, and so she's basically holding it all together like mortar and glue. And one day, so that's her story, and one day she's in a cafe and this guy says, "Hey, do you mind looking after my laptop while I take this call?" And so she says, "Yeah, of course." And some sixth sense causes her to throw herself on top of her laptop as the ceiling of the cafe caves in like a massive leak. And so she does save his laptop and kind of like gets soaked in the process. So he writes out an I owe you, and it just follows from there. It is such a lovely, lovely story of Fixie coming into her own, and the relationship is one of my favorite relationships that Sophie Kinsella has written that I've read so far, and I really, really, really loved this. I also highly suggest you pick up the audiobook because a lot of Sophie Kinsella's audiobooks are just fabulous. They're all narrated really well, and again, it says on the front, this book is a shot of pure joy, and what else do we need in a time like this than pure joy? Now from there we go into our fantasy. So the fantasy that I have around me is, if you've been on my channel for a little while, a little bit predictable, but also I think a little different. So we have our adventure novels, our typical YA type of vibe, and then our like dreamier, more atmospheric type fantasy. So let's get into it. The first one I'm going to talk about is, of course, The Hobbit. It is incroyable. It is incredible. Oh my god. And I was going to put Lord of the Rings on this list, but I felt that if you wanted an adventure novel but didn't want to commit to the full 3-book epic that is the Lord of the Rings, this is a good choice. Also, Lord of the Rings is also a good choice, and now would be a great time to read that and lose yourself in the Lord of the Rings. Or you could just follow Desi's advice from Pastel Pages and do a Lord of the Rings marathon. But The Hobbit, so if you don't know, it follows Bilbo Baggins, and he goes off on an adventure when he turns 50 with Gandalf and a whole crew of people, and they go to this mountain, and there's a dragon and all that kind of wonderfulness. This is the epitome of the journey is the most important part, and it's just wholesome and lovely, and I just really, really enjoy it. And I think I might need to do a reread of The Hobbit because it just makes me feel so happy. And yeah, I highly recommend you pick this one up. The next one is one that I am so excited about because the 4th book is coming out this December. I have already pre-ordered it, and I am so ready to get it in my mailbox. And this is the first one. If you have not read this series, definitely pick it up, because it's incredible, for one, and 2, because the 4th book is coming out, last book in the series, so no time like the present to pick it up and read it. But that is the An Ember in the Ashes series by Saba Tahir, and this story is just incredible. So it follows Laia and Elias. Laia is so this world is more along the lines of like Roman Empire. There are huge caste differences. There's the masks, who are all the warriors and part of that higher echelon of people, and then we have the undercaste, that's not the word for it, the lower caste, sure, that have the worker people and the people who have been marginalized and all that by the upper echelon people, you know, that kind of stuff. And so Laia is from the lower end, and her brother gets arrested for something, and so she wants to save him and break him out of jail, basically. To do this, she infiltrates a secret society and like a secret rebellion, and thus gets instated as a slave to the commandant, who is the leader of the masks. On the other hand, we have Elias, who is the like head boy mask, but he doesn't want to be a mask anymore because he doesn't like what they do. So it is their story and how that goes from there. This is an incredibly well written story. I adored this, and I remember reading these three, this one, An Ember in the Ashes, Torch Against the Night, and A Reaper at the Gates, all in like a week and a half, like 4 summers ago when 4 summers ago? How long has Reaper at the Gates been out? 2017 or 2018, one of those 2 years. That wasn't 4 summers ago. Math. I remember reading them all and just devouring them in the summer. Just not being able to put them down, not wanting to put them down, and it has been so long since I've read a book like that. So I highly suggest you pick these up if you want to just lose yourself in these stories that you just consume so fast. I love these, and I'm planning on doing a reread of all of these coming probably in October, November, to lead up to the release of the last book. So if you guys want me to do a readathon with that, let me know, and I would be more than happy to do that. But pick this up. The next one is a pretty OG, has been around a long time YA, and that is Graceling by Kristen Cashore. There's also Fire and Bitter Blue, the 2 companion novels. I believe they're all set in the same world, and I know Bitter Blue is a character in here as a kid versus when it's her book, she's like 18 years old, so it's like you kind of want to read this one first and then that one. I'm not sure where Fire lands because I have not read Fire. This is a story about Katsa, who has a grace for killing, and in this world not everybody, some people have graces, and if they have a grace, they have 2 different colored eyes, which is really cool, and that's how you can tell them apart, and their grace is just a talent in a way that they can do something very well. Katsa has a grace for killing, and so she has been employed by the crown as an assassin, basically, because like, what else should she be doing? And so she meets a prince named Prince Po, and they go on an adventure, basically, and it's an incredible read, and I remember super duper loving this when I read it. Fantastic book, and it's one of those ones that you can really sink your teeth into. Again, classic YA. We love stories like this, so definitely pick it up if you haven't. The next one is a bit of a weird recommendation. I never thought I would recommend this one because it's not one of my favorites, but I will say that when I picked this up, I had such low expectations that I couldn't put it down because I was kind of baffled by how good it was. And that is The Wrath in the Dawn by Renee Attier. And so this, I believe, is a retelling of the 1001 Nights or Arabian Nights? One of those. Yes, 1001 Nights. In this world, as is in 1001 Nights, it is ruled by a king who is a monster who takes a bride and she's dead by morning. One day, the main girl, don't remember her name, Shahrazad, the main girl, she decides to take matters into her own hands and marry the prince, but kill him before he can kill her. So to kind of infiltrate the castle, she tells him a story on their wedding night and doesn't stop until the sun is up, and so she lives, and she's the first one to live, and she keeps repeating this night after night. And it's kind of that story. I haven't read the second one in this duology, but I really enjoyed this one, and I was surprised at how sucked into this world I was. Not super high fantasy, not incredible world building, but it just is a story that you can lose yourself in. And I know that a lot of people are looking for that. And Marie Lu has blurbed it on the front saying an intoxicating gem of a story, which is so true. And yeah, I don't know. If you haven't picked this one up, I would genuinely suggest you check it out to see if you like it. Now we get into the 4 that I am going to be raving about and have been raving about on my channel for a long time. So if you're looking for something to do in the quarantine that we are in right now, definitely pick up the Cassandra Clare books if you have not yet. If you've been thinking about it, now is the time! I highly suggest you do it. If you don't want to commit to the 6 books of the Immortal Instruments, I suggest you read the first 3, and then you go to the Infernal Devices, and then if you want to, the other one, the Lady Midnight one, I don't remember what that one is. Dark Artifices? Sure. And then you can get to the best book of them all, in my opinion. I love the Infernal Devices trilogy. And this one, Chain of Gold, is the children of that one, and I can see this becoming my favorite trilogy of the ones that Cassandra Clare has written. The Dark Hours, or The Last Hours, but this one is so good. And if you are caught up on Cassandra Clare's books but have not yet read this one, definitely do, because this Shadowhunter world is large and expansive, and there are so many books that you can lose yourself in, and it's just, they're fast reads. It took me a long time to read this one in particular just because of the way that I was reading it. I was like vlogging my experience, you can see that on the screen. But most of her other books I remember reading in like 1 or 2 days, and they're big books. But I think it has something to do with the font, which is kind of fun. It's kind of a little bit sharp, and it like, it tickles your eyes nicely, which is such a weird thing to say, but like font is very important when it comes to books. And so I highly suggest you pick up this one, or any Cassandra Clare at this point, because the Shadowhunter world is just one for the ages. And yes, a lot of people don't like the original Mortal Instruments series. Push past that. Try the Infernal Devices. Try the Dark Edifices. Try this one if you want, because this one is so good. Cassie Clare can write a damn good character, and ooh, it's so good. Anyways, I'm gonna stop talking about Cassandra Clare and move on. Now, let's dig in to the stack of books I have that are the dreamier atmospheric reads that I find you can just sink into. The first one, how could I have a recommendations video and not include this? The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. This is such a good book. And it's little, I read it in like 5 hours, and I listened to Mozart while I did it, and it was the best time I've had in a long time. And it just is incredible. Even if you don't have like a music background like I do, this book is just fabulous. So it is a historical fantasy about Nana Mozart, who is Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart's sister, and it is her untold story. I love it so much, it's ridiculous. Oh, please read this, please. If anything from this video, please read this one. I beg you. It's just so good. The second to last book I have to recommend today for this lovely quarantine time of ours is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. If you have yet to read Strange the Dreamer, what are you doing? Please pick it up and read it. Laini Taylor's writing is so delicious and luxurious and just, oh, it's just incredible. On the second Shabbat of 12th moon, in the city of Weep, a girl fell from the sky. Her skin was blue, her blood was red. She broke over an iron gate, crimping it on impact, and there she hung, impossibly arched, graceful as a temple dancer, swooning on a lover's arm. I just adore this book so much, and the world is incredible. It's not high fantasy. Yes, it's a high fantasy world, but it's not the kind of high fantasy like Lord of the Rings. It is incredibly accessible, and it's just, oh, so good. And Laszlo Strange is my favorite human being. Oh, I don't even, this is one of the hardest books to describe to people as well, because so much is going on in here, but it's just incredible. So it follows Laszlo Strange, who is Strange the Dreamer, and he was an orphan boy, and then one day he grows up at like a monastery, and one day he just kind of leaves and finds himself in the library, and he never leaves the library, and he is obsessed with the city of Weep and its mysteries and why it vanished 200 years ago, and why people think it's just a fairy tale, and one day that dream comes to him. These last 3 books, the writing, chef's kiss, man. So good. Anyway, so the very last book I have to recommend you is one that's not going to appeal to everybody, because a lot of people don't really like the super flowery writing of this author, and many people have like outright hated this book and hated her previous book. But I've read this one and I felt like I was sinking into the sea of honey that is the Starless Sea. and I am obsessed with this book. I read it so slowly so I could just live in the pages, and there's a comment that I made previously about this book that is like, it feels, when you start the book, it feels like you're just in a normal everyday life, and then suddenly by the end of it you are so sunken into the story and you don't know how you got there, and it's just so beautiful. And throughout there's like other stories interwoven, and they all matter, they all mean something, and it's just so beautiful. Zachary Ezra Rollins is searching for his door to the starless sea, but he does not know he's searching for it. At the beginning of the story, he is on campus, and it's before classes start, and he decides to go to the library to pick up some books to just read because he's an avid reader. And he picks up this one book called Sweet Sorrows, and he starts reading it, and all of a sudden he comes across a story that's about him. And it takes him on this adventure to find the starless sea, and he meets two people, Mirabelle, and Dorian, and it's just so beautiful. And I will never stop loving this book, I think, ever. Oh, it's just so gorgeous. And if you are looking for a book in this time to truly take you to a different world and just sweep you off your feet with its just gorgeous flowery writing, and it's just, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it so much. Definitely pick this one up, or even her other one, The Night Circus. I really have to read The Night Circus. I have yet to do that. That's it from me. I'm just gonna sit here and hold The Starless Sea and Strange the Dreamer and Kingdom of Back because they're just so good, and they're my favorite. So anyways, my dudes, we have come to the end of this video. I hope you found at least one book that kind of intrigues you from this list to maybe seek out in this quarantine of ours, in this epidemic, in this climate of ours. I love books so much, and they are truly a thing to help us get through this really, really strange time. And I really hope that I helped in some way today. So, thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more content like this. I also do writing videos, and I always upload a reading vlog every Tuesday, as well as my main channel video every Friday. I hope to catch you in another video soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.